At least some of us can still fit into a wedding dress. That's what my sister-in-law Veronica said, her voice cutting through the reception hall like a knife through champagne. 200 guests went silent, every eye turning to me. Standing there in my red dress, the only unmarried woman at the family table. The only one over size 12, the only one past 35 without a ring. Veronica's smile was pristine, her white dress gleaming under the chandelier as she gestured toward me with her champagne flute. Maybe if you spent less time at the buffet and more time at the gym, Diane, you'd have what I have. The laughter started small, her bridesmaids first, then spreading like a stain across white tablecloths. My brother, her new husband, looked at his shoes. My mother touched my arm, whispering, "Just ignore her." But I didn't cry. I didn't run. I stood up slowly, smoothed my red dress, and smiled. Because exactly 32 days ago, I'd signed the papers that made me the majority owner of Luxford Marketing Group, the company where Veronica had just been promoted to senior account director, the company she bragged about to everyone who'd listen, the company that, starting Monday, would report directly to me. "Congratulations on your wedding, Veronica," I said quietly. "I hope you enjoyed your last weekend of certainty." Her smile faltered. "Just barely. Before I tell you what happened when she walked into that boardroom on Monday morning and saw me sitting at the head of the table, tell me where you're listening from. So I know I'm not the only one who's learned that the best revenge isn't loud. It's patient." From the outside, my family looked picture perfect. My younger brother Marcus married up when he started dating Veronica Chun. Harvard MBA, corporate fast-tracker. The kind of woman who wore designer labels like armor and treated kindness like a currency she couldn't afford. She was beautiful in that sharp, calculated way. Angular features, perfect posture, a smile that never reached her eyes. My name is Diane Rothman. I'm 38, a venture capitalist specializing in distressed asset acquisition and corporate restructuring. I buy struggling companies, fix them, and either flip them or absorb them into my portfolio. I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm very good at it. I'm also a size 16 single, and according to my family's whispered conversations, a concern. Growing up, I was always the smart one, the responsible one, the one who'd rather read financial reports than go to prom. Marcus was the golden child. Charming, athletic, popular. Where I was invisible, he was magnetic. Our parents loved us both, but they celebrated him. I made my first million at 30 through a risky acquisition of a failing tech startup that I turned around in 18 months. By 35, I had a portfolio worth $47 million. I wasn't on magazine covers, but I was respected in my industry. I lived well, traveled extensively, and answered to no one. But at every family gathering, the questions were the same. "Still single, Diane? Have you tried those dating apps? You know, men like women who take care of themselves." The subtext was always clear. You're successful, but you're also fat and alone. Therefore incomplete. Veronica made it text. She started dating Marcus 3 years ago, and from day one, she treated me like a problem to be solved. "Have you tried intermittent fasting?" she'd ask over Thanksgiving dinner, her hand resting possessively on Marcus's arm. "I know this amazing trainer. You have such a pretty face. Imagine if you just..." My mother would change the subject. My father would suddenly need more wine. Marcus would stare at his plate, and I would smile politely and let it slide because that's what you do when you're the bigger person. Literally and figuratively. 6 months ago, Marcus proposed. Veronica planned a wedding that cost more than most people's houses. Tuscan villa venue, celebrity florist, a dress that required 3 fittings and a magazine feature. She invited 300 people. I was not asked to be a bridesmaid. "It's not personal," my mother explained over the phone. "She's just very particular about the aesthetic. You understand." I understood perfectly. A month before the wedding, I got a call from my acquisition team. They'd identified a potential target. Luxford Marketing Group, a mid-sized agency struggling after their founder's sudden death. The company was bleeding clients, hemorrhaging cash, and ripe for a hostile takeover. Market value, $23 million. My offer, $28 million, all cash, close in 2 weeks. I was reviewing the financials when I saw the employee roster. Veronica Chun, Senior Account Director. Hired 8 months ago. Salary, $180,000. I sat back in my chair, staring at her name on my screen, and something cold and clear settled in my chest. I bought the company. Not because of Veronica. The acquisition made financial sense, good client base, talented staff, fixable problems. But knowing she worked there? That was a bonus. A very satisfying bonus. The deal closed 3 weeks before the wedding. I didn't tell anyone. I spent those weeks working with the transition team, reviewing operations, preparing my restructuring plan. Luxford's leadership had no idea who I was beyond the new investor. The staff wouldn't be informed until after I officially took control on the Monday following the wedding. So when Veronica sent out her wedding invitations, cream cardstock with gold embossing, I RSVP'd yes with a smile. When she asked what I'd be wearing, I told her red. Bold choice, she'd said, her tone implying otherwise. I bought the most beautiful red dress I could find. Crimson silk, tailored perfectly to my body, elegant and unapologetic. I had my hair done, my nails done. I looked objectively stunning. Not that it would matter to Veronica. To her, I'd always be the fat, unmarried sister-in-law. The embarrassment. The before picture. But that was fine. Because in 32 days, she'd learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating people. The wedding was everything Veronica had promised. Elegant, expensive, soulless. The ceremony took place in a garden overlooking the valley. String quartet playing as she glided down the aisle like she was accepting an award. Marcus looked happy. Genuinely happy. I was glad for him, even if his bride was a monster. The reception was in a grand ballroom, all marble and chandeliers and ice sculptures. I sat at the family table. Me, my parents, Marcus's college roommate and his wife. Veronica's parents held court at another table, surrounded by her corporate friends, all of them looking like they'd been styled by the same expensive consultant. Dinner was lavish, 7 courses, wine pairings, waiters who moved like ghosts. I ate slowly, savoring the irony that every bite I took was probably being mentally catalogued by someone. Then came the toasts. Veronica's father went first, talking about her achievements, her drive, her brilliance. Then Marcus's best man, telling embarrassing college stories. Then my mother, sweet and teary, welcoming Veronica to the family. Then Veronica stood up. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, she began, her voice clear and confident. She looked perfect, dress, makeup, posture. A woman who'd conquered every goal she'd set. Marriage is about partnership, she continued. About finding someone who elevates you, who matches your ambition, who shares your vision for success. She looked at Marcus, who beamed up at her. But it's also about family, she said, her gaze drifting toward our table. And family means accepting people as they are, even when they've let themselves go. My mother's smile froze. Some people, Veronica continued, her eyes landing directly on me, are content with where they are. They don't strive for more. Don't push themselves. And that's okay. Not everyone can be exceptional. The room was too quiet now. People shifting in their seats. I mean, look at Diane, she said, gesturing toward me with her champagne glass. Successful in her own way, I'm sure. But at least some of us can still fit into a wedding dress. A few gasps. Nervous laughter from her bridesmaids. Maybe if you spent less time at the buffet and more time at the gym, Diane, Veronica said, her smile sharp as broken glass. You'd have what I have. A partner. A future. A reason to look in the mirror and feel proud. The laughter was louder now. Not everyone. My mother looked horrified, my father furious. But enough. Enough that I could feel the weight of their judgment, their pity, their agreement. Marcus stared at his plate. Said nothing. Veronica raised her glass. To settling, and to those who refused to. People drank. Some reluctantly. Some enthusiastically. I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me. Veronica's smile widened, expecting tears, expecting me to run. Instead, I smoothed my red dress and met her gaze. Congratulations on your wedding, Veronica, I said, my voice steady and clear. You look beautiful. Marcus is lucky. Her smile faltered slightly, surprised by the civility. I hope you enjoyed your last weekend of certainty, I added quietly. Her brow furrowed. What? See you Monday, I said. Then I picked up my clutch and walked out of the ballroom, head high, red dress trailing behind me like a flag. Behind me, I heard confused murmurs. My mother calling my name. Marcus asking, what did she mean? I didn't look back. I spent Sunday preparing, reviewing files, finalizing my org chart, rehearsing my opening remarks. The Luxford team knew there was a Monday morning all-staff meeting to introduce the new ownership structure. They didn't know it was me. I chose my outfit carefully. A charcoal gray power suit, tailored perfectly. Simple jewelry. Hair pulled back. I looked every inch the CEO I was. I arrived at Luxford's offices at 7:30 a.m., before most staff. The executive team was already there. CFO, COO, VP of Operations. I'd met with them over Zoom during the transition, but this was our first in-person meeting. Ms. Rothman, the CFO said, shaking my hand. Welcome. The team is excited to meet you. And I'm excited to meet them, I replied. At 9 a.m., the conference room filled. 50 employees, all looking nervous and curious. They'd heard rumors, new owner, restructuring, possible layoffs. The energy was anxious. I stood at the head of the table, the projector behind me displaying the Luxford logo. Veronica walked in at 9:03, coffee in hand, chatting with a colleague. She was wearing a designer suit, her hair perfect, fresh from her honeymoon glow. She glanced toward the front of the room and froze. Our eyes met. I watched the recognition hit her in stages. Confusion, disbelief, horror. She looked at the nameplate in front of my seat. Diane Rothman, CEO and majority owner. The color drained from her face. Good morning, everyone, I said, my voice filling the room. For those who don't know me, my name is Diane Rothman. As of 3 weeks ago, I am the majority owner and CEO of Luxford Marketing Group. Veronica's coffee cup trembled in her hand. I've spent the past few weeks reviewing operations, and I'm impressed by the talent in this room. I continued. This company has incredible potential, but we need to make some changes. I clicked to the next slide. Restructuring plan. First, we're implementing a new merit-based review system. Performance, results, and professionalism will determine advancement. Not tenure. Not politics. Results. Veronica's colleague whispered something to her. She didn't respond, just stared at me. Second, we're expanding our client base and diversifying revenue streams. I've already secured 3 new contracts worth $4.2 million. Murmurs of approval. People were leaning forward now, interested. Third, I said, looking directly at Veronica, we're conducting a full audit of all senior positions. Anyone who doesn't meet our standards of professionalism and performance will be reassigned. Or released. Veronica's face was white as paper. That's all for now, I said. Department heads, please stay. Everyone else, back to work. My door is always open. The room emptied slowly. Veronica tried to leave with the crowd, but I called out, Veronica, a word please. She turned slowly, her expression a mix of panic and fury. When the room cleared except for us and the CFO, I gestured to a chair. Sit. She sat, her hands folded tightly in her lap. I've been reviewing your accounts, I said, pulling up her file on my laptop. Your performance metrics are concerning. 3 clients lost in the past 6 months. 2 complaints about missed deadlines. And your team satisfaction scores are the lowest in the company. That's not. I've been building relationships. Building relationships? I interrupted. Or building resentment. Because according to these exit interviews, people find you difficult to work with. Condescending. Dismissive. She swallowed hard. I demand excellence. You demand submission, I corrected. There's a difference. The CFO shifted uncomfortably beside me. Here's what's going to happen, I said, closing the laptop. You're being reassigned. You'll move from senior account director to junior associate, effective immediately. Your salary will be adjusted to $75,000. You'll report to Amanda Chun, no relation, I'm assuming, who will oversee your performance for the next 90 days. Veronica's mouth opened, but no sound came out. If you meet expectations, you can work your way back up. If not, we'll part ways. Your choice. You can't, she finally managed. This is personal. You're doing this because of what I said. At your wedding, I finished. When you publicly humiliated me in front of 300 people. When you called me fat and lazy and implied I was worthless. She looked away. No, Veronica. This isn't about that. If you were good at your job, you'd keep your position regardless of your appalling personal behavior. But you're not good at your job. You're coasting on confidence and cruelty, and that doesn't work here anymore. I stood up. You have 2 choices. Accept the reassignment and prove yourself. Or resign. You have until end of business today to decide. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Veronica? That comment about fitting into a wedding dress? I've been engaged twice. I said no both times. Not because I couldn't get married. Because I refused to settle. I left her sitting there, her perfect composure finally cracking. Veronica didn't resign. She accepted the reassignment, probably because Marcus had just bought a house, and their combined debt was substantial. She couldn't afford to quit. Over the next 3 months, I watched her struggle. Amanda, her new supervisor, was firm but fair, a 28-year-old rising star who had no patience for excuses. Veronica, used to being the authority, now had to ask permission, meet deadlines, justify decisions. She showed up every day. I'll give her that. Jaw tight, eyes down, no longer the queen of the office. Just another employee trying to survive. The company thrived. Within 6 months, we'd recovered our lost clients and signed 5 new ones. Revenue was up 34%. Staff morale improved dramatically. Luxford was back on track. At the 4-month mark, Veronica requested a meeting. She showed up at my office, knocked quietly, and waited for permission to enter. "Sit," I said, not looking up from my laptop. She sat, hands folded. No wedding ring. I'd heard through the grapevine that she and Marcus were taking space. Apparently, financial stress and public humiliation strain even the strongest marriages. "I want to apologize," she said quietly. I looked up. For what I said at the wedding. It was cruel. Unprofessional. You meant every word," I interrupted. "Don't insult me by pretending otherwise." She flinched. "You didn't apologize because you're sorry," I continued. "You apologized because you're desperate. You need this job. You need me to believe you've changed." "I have changed," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "The past 4 months have been humbling." "Humbling," I repeated. Interesting word choice. I closed my laptop and leaned back. "You know what's interesting, Veronica? I didn't buy this company to punish you. I bought it because it was a good investment. Your presence here was just a bonus. A cosmic coincidence." She looked up, surprised. "But you know what I learned?" I continued. "Watching you these past months. You're not a bad person. You're just someone who was never told no. Never forced to see past your own reflection. Never made to understand that cruelty has consequences." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city. "I'm not going to fire you," I said. "You're doing better. Amanda says you're coachable when you stop trying to dominate. Your last 2 projects were solid. You're learning." She exhaled, relief washing over her face. "But you're never getting your old position back," I added. "That's gone. You burned that bridge when you decided humiliating me publicly was worth a laugh." Her relief faded. "Here's what I'll offer," I said, turning back to her. "You stay at associate level. You prove, over the next year, that you can lead without cruelty, that you can succeed without stepping on people. And maybe, there's a path back to senior leadership. Not here, but somewhere." She nodded slowly. "I understand." "Do you?" I asked. "Do you understand that the woman you mocked at your wedding? The fat, unmarried, settled woman? She's the reason you still have a job. The reason this company didn't collapse. The reason you're not unemployed, and explaining to your husband why you torpedoed your own career." Tears filled her eyes. Real ones this time. "I do," she whispered. "I understand." "Good," I said. "Then get back to work." She stood, wiped her eyes, and walked to the door. Then she paused. "Diane. Yes, you were right. About settling. I did. I married Marcus because he was safe. Impressive on paper. But I don't think I love him. I think I love the idea of him." I didn't respond. It wasn't my place. "I'm moving out next month," she continued. "I think I need to figure out who I am when I'm not performing for everyone." "That's probably wise," I said quietly. She nodded and left. A year later, Luxford had doubled in size. I'd acquired 2 smaller agencies and merged them into our portfolio. We were now one of the top firms in the region. I'd been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, and Entrepreneur. The fat, unmarried, settled woman was now running a $60 million empire. Veronica was still with the company. Still an associate, but a good one. She'd found her niche in digital strategy, working with younger clients who appreciated her direct approach when it wasn't laced with contempt. She and Marcus divorced quietly. No drama. Just 2 people realizing they'd married for the wrong reasons. We weren't friends. We'd never be friends. But we were civil, professional. She did her work. I did mine. The past stayed where it belonged. My family dinners were different now. No more questions about my weight, my dating life, my wasted potential. My parents bragged about my success to their friends. Marcus congratulated me on the Forbes feature. Even distant relatives who'd never bothered with me before suddenly wanted to connect. I didn't need their validation anymore. But I accepted it with the same grace I'd accepted their judgment. Because that's what winners do. They win quietly and let the scoreboard speak for itself. Last month, I got invited to speak at a conference on corporate acquisitions. After my talk, a young woman approached me, maybe 25, heavy-set, nervous. "Ms. Rothman," she said, "I just wanted to say, thank you. I've followed your career for years. You prove that you don't have to look a certain way, to succeed." I smiled. You don't have to look any way except determined. That's the only aesthetic that matters. She thanked me again and walked away, standing a little taller. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "I saw your speech online. You were right. About everything. V." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "I know," and deleted the thread. Because the best revenge isn't making someone apologize. It's making them irrelevant. It's building a life so full, so successful, so unapologetically yours that their opinion becomes background noise. Veronica called me a fat pig at her wedding. 200 people laughed. 1 year later, she was working for me. The laughter had stopped. Not because I fired her. Not because I humiliated her publicly. But because I built something she couldn't touch. Couldn't diminish. Couldn't take away. If you've ever been judged for your body, your choices, your path, if you've ever been told you're less than because you don't fit someone else's idea of success, you know this feeling. It's not anger. It's not even satisfaction. It's just the quiet, unshakable knowledge that you were always enough. And the people who said otherwise, they were just loud. Share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to know that the best revenge is becoming undeniable. And subscribe for more stories about the moment you stop explaining yourself and start proving them wrong.